Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do Countdown episode number 95. That's right, fans. I got done reading the books a little bit early so I could study for my attendance exam later in the week. So I had some free time to do the countdown, and I wanted to present it to you all. So this is the show where I count down my least favorite comic of the week all the way down to number one. And today, fans, we have 15 comics to talk about altogether. 14 were physical copies and one was digital. So without further ado, let's get started with the countdown, episode number 95. All right, so here we go. Number 15 on this week's list. Could you expect anything less? New 52, Future's End, issue number 43. That's right, fans. Here we have Brainiac on the cover with Brother's Eye. And I'm thinking, okay, this series is coming to a conclusion. It's going to get damn good, right? Yeah, no. It's like getting worse. You would think with all the heroes starting to come together and trying to fight Brainiac, you would think the artwork would improve, things of detail would improve. But yeah, no. Look at that. That's Superman. Superman looks like a caveman. I was just like dumbfounded. I thought this was some of the worst artwork in the actual series to date. This issue features his Brainiac where his machine is not working, and somehow now he has to put it in manual override so he can lift the city up and keep it under its dome or whatnot. Nothing really happened in this issue. It wasn't exciting for me. The artwork kind of took me out of it. I mean, just the artwork was just absolutely horrible. I cannot stress that anymore. I mean, it was some of the roughest I've seen in the series, and there was nothing there worth really reading in this story. And definitely a disappointment. And after reading this particular issue, I gave this one a 2 out of 5. This was absolutely one of the worst issues of Future's End I have read up until this point. And I thought it was getting better. It really did. And just, no, don't read it. If you don't have to, please don't read it. And that was number 15. All right, going forward, we're going to move on to number 14. And the rest of the books were good this week. As it got higher on the list, it was really hard to make a decision on what was going to be number one and number two, and then you got to that top 5 spot. Like, it started getting complicated. The next one was number 14, and that was S.H.I.E.L.D., issue number 3. You know what? It's a good book, but the problem is it reminds me of season 1 of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I didn't really like, where it was like your episode of the week, we defeat a villain, and then we move on to the next thing. There's no real concrete story, nothing to really get you excited about the series in the future. Another downside about this particular series is that there's always a different artist on here. Now, the artist on here is not that it's bad, and the artist, the penciler is Alan Davis, which has Spider-Man in the actual issue, which I thought was really well done. I thought he drew him beautifully. But however, when you don't have a consistent artist in the book, I think it takes away from it. And as a reader, you just don't know what you're going to expect each and every month when the series comes out. So I think that's a downfall. So in this particular issue, we wound up seeing that there was some strange phenomenon going on within Doctor Strange's house. And he has this particular book, and we have the villain is the one, I forgot his name. The villain is the one that winds up opening this book, and it's casting all these spells going out through Doctor Strange's home, and then it's starting to spread out outside his property. And if S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't contain this book within a certain amount of time, the whole thing is going to create all kinds of problems throughout the earth. So Agent Coulson winds up recruiting Spider-Man to use his spider sense to get through the house. And it was quite, I mean, it was interesting. It was entertaining for what it was. Spider-Man had some of his comical moments where, like we had, like they go into this room and they're like, oh my God, you're not going to believe the next room that we go into. And it winds up being in this kitchen. And I was kind of laughing in this part here, you know. And so there was some good moments in here, but there was nothing sitting here special saying, man, I gotta go out and buy the next issue of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's what I think this series is kind of lacking, is direction. And so we'll see where it goes from here. It was a pretty fun read for what it was worth. If Spider-Man wasn't in here, it could have been a lesser grade, even more than that. But after reading it, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Decent artwork, decent story, average book. Let the reader, I'm going to let you guys make a decision if you want to spend your hard-earned cash on S.H.I.E.L.D. And this book is $3.99, which most books are now for Marvel. I think the only book at this point that it's $2.99 is Miss Marvel. That is it. So, all right. So going forward, now we're going on to number 13, and number 13, sadly for me, is Black Vortex, All New X-Men. This is chapter 4 of the series, and I'll tell you a reason why. Okay. Now, this book here is written by Brian Michael Bendis, which is fine, and which he's been writing the whole thing. And then Andrea Sorrentino does the artwork. Huge fan of Sorrentino's artwork when it came to the Green Arrow series. But when it comes to a series that's 3 chapters already in, and you're getting a very similar art style throughout the actual series, and then they throw in Sorrentino's artwork in it, for me, at times it really didn't work. On pages like this, it's gorgeous. And I know what they were trying to accomplish here by trying to create more of a cosmic atmosphere. Uh, and But you started off at chapter 1, not chapter 4. And that's where I had a big problem with it. Here we get to see our characters here where, yeah, that's Angel and that's Beast and whatnot, and they're still, holding on to the Black Vortex mirror. They take it away from our Guardians of the Galaxy / other X-Men that are involved in the situation, and it just, at times, it just didn't work. At other times, though, I thought it was gorgeous, because we get to see a whole battle erupt here between Gamora, and then you see the big Kree spaceship come around, and what happens is you wind up having Ronan the Accuser wind up coming and wind up trying to take the Black Vortex mirror. Now, right here, which was kind of funny, because this reminded me of Green Arrow with a hammer. Looks exactly like him. But then when you got to this part, this portion of the artwork, it was gorgeous. I was like, wow, that's really nice. So it was like I found myself in a constant tug of war going, this is really cool, but this is really not right either. So, and then here was another cool page here as well. So I was at a tug of war with myself going, I just don't know if this was the right time to insert this artwork. Now, the story had Gamora and the rest of the crew take this vortex mirror. It was taken by Ronan. Now Ronan has this mirror, and we find out that our Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men characters are still okay. And we wind up finding out that they need additional help, and who's going to help them try to retrieve the mirror and get back into this fight. And we wind up finding out at the end of the issue that you wind up seeing that Cyclops is going to join back with the X-Men and help them out, which I thought was pretty cool in here. And it was also a really kind of a neat moment here, get to seeing Gamora and her allies try to stop the Kree to try to get that Black Vortex mirror. It was an okay issue, but again, that artwork just really bothered me in it, and I was just like, oh man, and I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go from here. So the inconsistency really kind of bugged me there. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 3.25 out of 5. All right, so going forward now. So it's 15, 14, 13. So moving on to number 12. And you guys might be surprised about this one. Number 12 on my list this week was Spider-Gwen issue number 1. Now, I did an in-depth review. If you guys want to see that review right here on Comic Book Corner 2.0. There was a lot of hype with this comic. It's coming out and people are all hyped about it. And, I think some people might be like, oh, yeah, this was great just because there was so much hype and there was so much talk about this that they don't want to admit to themselves that maybe this was an average issue or just above an average issue, which it was for me. I like the concept of Spider-Gwen. I think it's really cool. However, And I like the universe that Spider-Gwen surrounds herself, where you get to see in this issue that, Ben Grimm is a police officer at this moment. Frank Castle is working for the police at this moment as well. And you get to see him in here also. And we get to see people are looking for Spider-Woman or Spider-Gwen because she's been missing because of Spider-Verse and her trying to adjust to her life, which I get that. Like, I get it all, and I thought it was cool. I think the artwork is pretty neat where it's a dark comic, but at times they put these, bright colors in there, these psychedelic colors to kind of just brighten up the book. And then you also get the Mary Janes that was thrown in here too, trying to solve their band problems, which is it's really awesome. It's a different, it's original concept. But however, I wasn't just in awe about this one. The first one, I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then this story, I was like, okay, this is neat, but they're doing battle against the Vulture. I'm not a huge Vulture fan. And I was just like, and it just ended up with the last, 4 or 5 pages of them, doing this battle against each other. So I wasn't really immersed this time around. I wasn't really in awe, and I wasn't, I didn't feel connected to Gwen this time around. But it doesn't mean that I'm dropping Spider-Gwen issue number 1. Not in any case. It takes time to really get to know a series and what direction it's going in. And from what I heard after doing my in-depth review, we're going to get the story arc of Peter Parker's demise in this universe on how it led up to his death, which I'm really interested in. So I think that's where the series is really going to start to, form itself there. So, but after reading Spider-Gwen issue number 1, for me, it was a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Good book, but there was a lot of other books that I felt this week that just blew this out of the water. So, all right, that's what got number, I think it was 12. Yes, that was number 12. So now we're moving on to number 11. And number 11 is John Layman's Chew, issue number 46. Fun series. It's always original. The only problem with Chew is that you have to read back issues to understand what's going on. And that's a lot of the problems with, Image books that have been going on for a very long time. You have to read these trades because they're so original. It's not like a Spider-Man book where you're like, hey, I haven't read Spider-Man in 50 issues, but I still know the back history of the character. Whereas Chew, you have to. But then if you guys do read Chew, this was a very fun issue. Agent Pollo got killed. And if you weren't familiar with Agent Pollo, he was the killer rooster that was unstoppable. But John here, he's the one that killed it to try to use a strategy to kill this collector being that, winds up having all these particular powers. And we get to see that based off of the last issue, the collector it really put all of the agents in the hospital. And so now we have a different head guy, which he's like a gingerbread man, which is so hysterical. And we get to see that this is a type of filler issue. Agent Chew winds up getting a secondary partner, and his name is, excuse me, the Bear, which is funny. And they're trying to solve this particular case where this guy creates these gummy bear tanks, and he's creating all kinds of like gummy bear battering rams and things like that. And we find out that this guy's name is Raymond Reese, and that's his power. But he's been manipulated by this old lady grandma who puts peppermints in front of your face, and it winds up hypnotizing, and you wind up doing the old lady's old lady's bidding, which I thought was really funny. The book has lots of humor. It's a great book. It's a great story. The only thing I can recommend here, guys, if you haven't read it, is please pick up the trades. I'm really sure that you'll enjoy Chew. It's fun. It's got lots of Easter eggs. It's a great, great read. And after reading this particular issue, after it's a filler, I'm going to give this one a 3.75 out of 5. All right. So going on to the top 10 this week. Let me just make sure we're at our top 10. Yep, number 10. Top 10 is Batman issue number 39. I like Batman. However, I'm not hardcore like a lot of people are. And people are right now, if they're watching this, is like, you suck, Mike. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know comics, blah, blah, blah. I've gotten that before when it comes to Batman. People have totally disagreed with me on issues, and I'm not saying that this is a bad comic in any way. I just have my more favorites, or I'm more into other things. And right now, before we go any further in this, I gave this a 4 out of 5. It's a solid, solid issue. With Batman, I tend to get bored with the story arcs. For me, they tend to go on a little bit too long. Story tends to be a little bit too wordy or lengthy to me. Not enough action, a lot of standing around at times with Batman. But it's still a really good series. It's still, drawn very well by, what's it called, Greg Capullo. And Scott Snyder does write a great story. He has to go to, Batman in this issue has to go to the court. He has to go to the Court of Owls, and he's asking them for help to try to stop the Clown, which is obviously the Joker here. And they refuse. They won't help him. They figure that Gotham will crumble and fall, and it will revitalize itself, and the court will still be around. So Batman pretty much fails in this particular issue when it comes to the Court of the Owls. And he figures out how to get this cure, but he has to tap into Batman's spinal cord, Batman has to type into Joker's spinal cord in order to get this antidote or whatever. But as we see, we wind up seeing that the Joker winds up coming into the Batcave in here, and Alfred's like, "You're not wanted here." And the next thing he does is he goes and he shoots himself. He shoots him in the ear. I mean, and this was the best part of the actual issue. And the next thing you wind up seeing is the Joker is hiding, and he winds up freaking slicing Alfred's arm off, or his wrist. And it's just like, holy shit. I mean, he's sitting there bleeding himself out, and it's like, oh, damn. And he winds up planting this bomb, and he winds up escaping, and he winds up taking Batman's stuff. And I was like, wow, what an intrusion there. But it was kind of quickly nullified because, he winds up getting in touch with Penny 2, and Alfred's daughter, and she wound up taking care of the whole thing. So that thing was kind of like wrapped up really quickly, where I think I would have liked a different ending there, where he had Alfred and he cut off his hand and he was left for dead, and Batman had to get there in a certain amount of time. I would have kind of loved to see that a little bit better. But then you get to see this Joker. He winds up having this parade with all Batman's, dinosaurs and all his freaking stuff, and I thought that was so comical. So in the end, it winds up looking like that Batman has to team up with his greatest rogues in order to stop the Joker. So, and it's like Joker has planned all this. He's like, oh yes, it looks like everything has been according to plan. So yeah, really good issue. I like the issue. I could care less about the actual backstories in the book. I would love for them to extend the real story here. But this was a really good issue. I really enjoyed it for what it was. It's a 4-star book. It was a good book for me. Again, there's just other characters that I prefer that get me more excited. I thought it was a great read. For some, it could be at top of their list, and I can see why. So we'll see where Endgame goes, how everything ends with this whole thing. Again, though, I just, for Batman stories, they just tend to drag on a little bit too much for me, and that brings down the series for me in general. So again, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. All right, so going forward, we're going on to number 9, and number 9 this week is Deathstroke issue number 5. You want to talk about an all-out battle in this issue? If you like to see a huge fight, this was it, guys. This was the one to read for a brawl. If you wanted to see a Batman and freaking Deathstroke fight, this was it. Tony S. Daniel displayed everything in his power to do that. And that's what pretty much happens in this particular issue. Fight after fight after punch after punch. Harley sitting there being the cheerleader going, take them, Bats, all kinds of stuff going on in this particular issue. One of the things, though, that is getting a little bit repetitive in the series is that we constantly see Slade struggling to battle. because of his second eye, and it's been brought up multiple times in the series. I think for 4 straight issues now, he's been complaining about how he could see out of his eye and that it's messing up with his battle. So pretty much what happens in this issue is that they battle and battle and battle. I mean, it's still going on, and this is why this got a little bit lower, because it was like the entire issue. It winds up becoming this stalemate, and Harley Quinn winds up blowing up the place. And she's like, "Yeah, I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, yeah." So she winds up taking off, and we wind up seeing a little bit of the story progress towards the end, where we wind up seeing Jericho in here with his sister, and we wind up seeing that there's a particular person that's going to help Jericho with his situation, and then you wind up seeing that it's the Possum. And if you guys remember the Possum, he was the guy that wound up starting this whole series off to begin with. He was the major bad guy, and they figured out that he was the bad person here, and we wind up finding out that he winds up blowing up. And then just like at the end of issue 1, we wind up seeing that these guys pop up again. Yeah, so we'll see what happens in this particular issue. So now they're all in Gotham. They're going to try to take Jericho. We'll see where it goes. So I liked the issue for what it was. I thought it was fun. I love seeing big battle scenes like that, but then in the end, it wound up getting a little bit old. So same thing. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to number 8. And number 8 was Deadpool. Issue number 42. Only 3 issues left until Deadpool dies. So we'll see what happens with that. I thought this issue was really cool. And if you pay attention to a lot of comics this week, there was a lot of verses going on. It was like Deadpool versus Omega Red, Deathstroke versus Batman. There's Spider-Man versus Superior. There's all kinds of like battling going on in this week between major characters. But in this issue, we get to see, Deadpool waving the flag here, trying to protect the people. And we wind up finding out that Omega Red makes his appearance here, and he's working with Roxxon or whatnot, and he's has to do this crazy battle against Deadpool, and he swears that Deadpool is not going to make it out alive. And I like the artwork in here, and I love the tone of the book. I love the dialogue in here. I think Deadpool has great humor when needed. It's not overly done like it's been done in the past, and it was really fun to see Deadpool trying to protect these people. And then what happens is Omega Red winds up catching him by surprise, and they just same thing. They wind up going to town in this thing, and it looks like that Deadpool easily hands him, but then Omega Red winds up tricking him and winds up getting Paste Pot Pete in here, and he winds up gluing him into a statue, which I thought was so comical. But then when you thought everything was safe and everything was hunky-dory, we wind up finding out that Omega Red wants the revenge on Deadpool because he killed his family. And Deadpool has this memory at the last second, and Omega Red winds up starting to choke him. And as he's choking him, and as you think that he's about to die, he winds up pulling out the whole, hey, let me get a pen, take out the casing for it, and stick it in my throat so I can breathe. And you can see that he physically does that here. And I was like, man, that is smart as hell. And he winds up living. And so Deadpool winds up, or Omega Red winds up taking him and winds up dragging him across the desert here on the floor. I was like, this is crazy stuff. I like it. I think it was fun. It was good. It was a good battle. I just like this battle better because he winds up freaking putting the thing in his throat. That's original. That's something different. I've never seen that before. But I'm starting to slowly get back into Deadpool and like it. I like Jerry Duggan's writing. And so I'm going to keep with it and see if I can slowly catch on to this book a little bit more as the time goes along. So after reading this one, same thing. I gave this one 4 out of 5, around the same way. All right. So next we're going to go on, and we go on to, let me just make sure we're correct with my count. 2, 3, number 7. And number 7, guys, this week goes to Spider-Man 2099, issue number 9. Kind of like the aftermath of what's going on with Spider-Verse. Where does Miguel O'Hara go to next? And in this particular issue, we get to see that poor Miguel, the guy can't catch a break for whatever reason. Ever since his series started, he's always trying to fix everyone else's problems. And he will finally winds up going back to 2099 to Nova York. That's what you call it, and it's destroyed. It's like an apocalyptic hell, and he's just like, oh my god. He's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. He winds up coming across these guys, and they're kind of innocent, and Miguel winds up saying, take me back to your camp. I need to find out what's going on. I need answers. How did this place become this way? And the next thing we wind up finding is they go out to their camp, and it's deserted. There's nobody here. There should have been about 50 people in there. And the next thing we see is that Maestro is here, which is the futuristic Hulk of the time. And he thinks he's actually Peter Parker. He doesn't realize that he's Spider-Man 2099 here. And he's trying to get information. They do this quick battle, which is just nothing, because Maestro just sits there and just throws them against the freaking mountains, and it's just, you know, it just doesn't last long. Artwork's really well done in this particular issue. Really enjoyed it. Like the action scenes in this book. And we find out that Acclimax is behind the whole destruction behind this city, and because they wound up doing some kind of nukes, and it became this radioactive type of place. And yeah, it was bad. So it was a project that totally went wrong. And by the time we get to the end of this issue, we wind up seeing that Maestro winds up using the people that he used for his camp and kind of made it like a Hollywood sign. And he's attaching people to it. And the guy is just sick. He just like cracked people's necks for no particular reason. And for some reason now, Maestro wants to throw him into jail because he knew he came from a portal and he wants to get sent back. And so to get answers, he winds up having someone in the jail cell with Miguel, and hopefully they can get answers so he can go back, and we'll find out that it's Strange from 2099, this version of Doctor Strange, which is a female. So really interesting stuff. I really liked this book for what it was. It was in the top 5 for a very long time, but then there's other books I read later that just kind of kept picking it off. But really well done book. Really enjoyed it. Going to give this one a 4.25 out of 5. Great story. I love Spider-Man 2099. I love where Peter David's going. You know, with the series right now, but I heard it was ending. So if you guys know that, once the Secret Wars comes out, I did hear that the series was ending. I have to try to find a confirmation on this, but I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys can hop on this. This is a fun series. All right, next book. We're going on to number 6. And number 6 was the digital book that I read this week. And let me see if I can find it real quick. And it was Graveyard Shift, issue number 3. And we can see that right here, guys. This book is written by Jay Farber. If you guys remember the series called Domino 5 or Noble Causes, he's the one that wrote those series in the past. And this series is about a detective who has a girlfriend by the name of Hope, and she wound up getting captured by some vampires, and she wound up getting bitten, and she winds up escaping the vampires. And what happens is Liam, which is her boyfriend, as you can see in the particular issue, winds up taking her in, obviously, because he loves her, and it's long time, it's a fiance actually, and is trying to take care of her and deal with her vampire issues. And this has been progressing here. And last issue, we got to see that she was hungry, and they didn't know how to feed her. So Liam was trying to go to the blood bank or do whatever he can to get blood. And at the end of the last issue, you wind up seeing Hope going after some burglar or bad guy in the particular street and getting food that way. So in this issue, it winds up opening up and he's looking for her. And she finally comes through the door, and she's all happy, and she just sucks some guy's face, and she's all wants to get into it, and he's kind of into it, and when they start going at it with each other, he starts feeling her, and he's like, this is wrong because I can't feel your heartbeat right now. And so he's totally turned off by the whole situation. And, they love each other, and he wants to stick by her. And he feels that he needs somebody else to find out more about this whole vampire thing, what they can't do, what's the weaknesses, and all this other stuff. So they wind up getting a spiritual person and finding out more about what the vampire's about. And you also learn the back history of what happened while she was out trying to take care of these bad guys. So as the issue progresses in here, we wind up seeing that Hope and Liam are doing some detective work on trying to stop the man that's responsible for all these people that are getting killed, because he's the head vampire. He's been getting young girls, manipulating them to join this modeling agency, and then he makes them all vampires. So they're trying to find this guy, and by the time we wind up getting to the end of this issue, we wind up finding out that the head vampire senses Hope, which is the good female vampire, and they start going after him at the end of the particular issue, and this is the crew that's going after him. So that was the story in a nutshell. This is a good series. It's a 5-issue mini series. You can pick it up issue 1, and obviously it won't cost you that much because, again, it's only 5 issues. I think what makes the series so good is that the relationship between Hope and Liam. Because Hope became this vampire, Liam's not giving up on her. And I love the connection there that they have with each other, and yet they're getting ready to do this detective work to stop this guy. The only thing is that we can't have Hope go under the control of this head vampire, because she can turn on Liam at any time. So really great stuff. I can't wait to see what happens at the end of it. So great book there. So again, I give this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. Really enjoy this series. I did not think I would like it. The artwork is beautiful in it. All right, so we're going on to that was number 6, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that was number 6. So now we're going on to our top 5. And our number 5 book of the week goes to the Fantastic Four, issue number 643. That's right. This series is coming to an end very soon. This issue was really cool because we wind up seeing Sleepwalker get recruited with the Fantastic Four and all the other characters here, which I thought was really neat. And I think the book did a wonderful job at explaining who Sleepwalker really is, where he came from, what he's about. Because, again, we haven't seen Sleepwalker since the 90s. And if you weren't born in the 90s, you're not going to know who the Sleepwalker was, or if you're a little kid, you have no idea who he is. We get to see that everything that happened in the first issue or second issue Fantastic Four, with all these creatures coming out of this dream world or whatever it is, it's happening everywhere. And you get to see it happen in the UK, in London, and all over the world. Nice artwork here. Artwork is Leonard Kirk. Yeah, Leonard Kirk is the artwork here. And we get to see that Mr. Quiet's been spilling the beans to Reed Richards the whole time, and it's been kind of a setup because he could have escaped pretty much at any time, and he winds up escaping in the issue, but so does Mr. Quiet. But what we get at the end of this issue is we wind up seeing the whole family get reunited to get this whole big battle underway. We get to see all the kids again. They wind up getting reunited with everybody in a particular issue. Since early on, we get to see a lot of action in this book with Ben Grimm. We get to see Doc Green in here, and again, you get to see Sleepwalker, and you get to see what this character is all about, where he came from, and how he can actually help Franklin stop this whole dream universe that's going on. Because if he stops him, then this whole thing can come to an end. But once after the whole reuniting thing comes to an end, and you see some touching moments in this issue, we wind up seeing that our heroes become in grave danger because of the other world's Avengers in here, so which is from the Heroes Reborn universe, if you guys remember that universe. So really awesome stuff. I love Fantastic Four. I love this whole run of James Robertson and Leonard Kirk. It's been a great story. It's pretty much really one story arc, but the story has been so good that it just flowed so nicely, and I really enjoyed it. So that gets top 5 for me this week, and it gets a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to number 4. Number 4 was Darth Vader, issue number 2. I like this issue better than the first one. This is Gary Gillen's, run on Darth Vader, see how he can do his personality, if he can make him like this standalone character, how we get to know Anakin Skywalker in this evil version. And this book was really well done. The artwork was good this time. I thought it was better than last time. It's Salvador Larroca, I think, was the artist in here. We get to see Darth Vader flying his Imperial ship and his TIE fighter. You get to see great stuff in here with just holograms of the Super Star Destroyer's fleet in here. Nice artwork just in space, and here with Darth Vader with the stormtroopers. So this is a really well done issue. Really artistically, it was really well done. But what this what this issue is about is really about Lord Vader and General Tag, about getting along with each other and trusting each other and knowing the right people to recruit for certain missions. And we see that Lord Vader had to go after they had this vessel that they got that was, I'm trying to explain, it's kind of hard to explain, I think, actually. They have this vessel that had Imperial things that they were trying to steal. And what happens is Darth Vader posed as a decoy and went on this shuttle. And so they went to go steal some of their plans and their information. And what happened is General Tag winds up sending in one of his closest allies to watch Vader, because in realities, Vader's on this short leash because of Emperor Palpatine, because Palpatine feels that Vader is the one responsible for the Death Star's destruction. And that's what happens in the issue. And we wind up finding out that the person that's closest to Vader, or the person that was watching Vader, was the traitor to begin with. And he was the one leaking all the information to all these particular people on what the Imperials had and what they can steal without being suspicious. And I thought it was really cool because first you thought the general was the one that was in complete control, had this leash on Vader, and then Vader kind of turns it around, and he just winds up going, "Screw you, dude." He's like, I've picked out the traitor, so you better be more careful on who you pick to watch me. It was like, don't think I'm the schmuck. So I thought that was really badass, and I just love how cocky the general was at first, because he's showing about how he has his whole Star Destroyer fleet, how they may not be as strong as the Death Star, but they can turn any place into dust. And he thought that General Tarkin was a fool, and it was really good to see how confident this general was. And then Darth Vader just winds up kind of shoving it in his face at the end. So this issue was pretty cool. Kind of really didn't have too much to do with what happened in that first issue, but still, this was really awesome to see Lord Vader's character to just be like, hey, fuck you, dude, don't screw with me. So I really like that. Great issue. Really fun. Could have been a #1 issue in my point. It's maybe some other weeks. So, but this was a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. All right, so going on to number 3. And number 3 goes to The Little Mermaid. Issue #1. Yes, fans, this is not you're taking Disney's Little Mermaid. This was done by Meredith Finch. She's the writer of this. If you guys are not familiar with her, she is writing the Wonder Woman series right now. And the artwork is done on this one by Miguel Mendoca? I don't know. But the artwork is really done. The cover here is done by David Finch. And the interior artwork was absolutely gorgeous in this particular book. I'll show you some pages of I think her name is Erica in this particular issue, which is the Little Mermaid in here, and we get to see her struggle in here, and then she becomes this crazy, like Hulk-like mermaid. But we can see that she goes on to this island, and yeah, so the artwork is, I think it's really gorgeous, and then you get to see this versions of the Sea Witch, which is like Ursula in her from like the mermaid, and we get to see her in there. So artistically also, this book was really well done. And what this book done for me was it had me intrigued. I was intrigued on how they were going to do this series to start off with, but then when I got to the end of the first issue, I was like, I gotta read more of this. I'm like, this didn't give me enough to really tell me the story here. It was all set up. It was just like I kind of already knew that we're going to get a Little Mermaid, but it just gave me more questions, than answers here. So, but what was this story about? Well, 20 years ago, we find out we have this rich woman here, and she falls into the sea, and we wind up finding out that she winds up getting rescued by what looks like a merman or a mermaid or whatever it was. It was a merman because it was a guy. And the next thing we find out that it is now, the time is current, it's 20 years later, and we see this mermaid, and she winds up getting captured. And you get to see that when she gets angry, just like Hulk, she hulks out and turns into some crazy ass creature. And then when she gets out of danger, she kind of just sits there and just relaxes. And we find out though that it's all a science experiment, that she was captured, and people are doing these science experiments on her, and they want to keep working on it. So. And you find out how she was captured. It was all a setup. They knew she was in the ocean, and she tried to help somebody, and it kind of backfired on her. So now the next thing we wind up finding out is that this is her mom. And her mom is looking for her daughter, and she has no idea what's going on with her. And we wind up seeing that it's the Sea Witch here. And the Sea Witch is behind the whole situation. Excuse me. She has the information. She's like the person to go to. And we can see that, she's very manipulative, and she wants things in return. She's after for her own intentions. And what kind of the answer that you get is she's not in a good place right now. And we wind up finding out that they're getting ready to do more experiments on her, and that's how it ends. And it's like, holy shit, really? That's it? That's all I get? So I get, like, we found out that the mom gave birth to this, to this actual, mermaid, and she did it with some merman, and she had this baby, and now they got the mermaid, and she's being held as a sponsor. What's going to happen here? So, but I really enjoyed it. It's like kind of horrific at the end of it, and you kind of feel for this poor creature being held as like this science experiment here. But I really liked it, and it really got me excited going forward for this series. So I gave this one a 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. All right. Number 2 and number 1. I don't really make a pick, but I think I finally figured out what my number 2 was. And my number 2 this week was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 15. I thought this issue was really good. This is really, I felt that, they always come up with like part 6s and part 7s, and this should have been like a part 7, I think, because it took the whole issue. Sometimes you get epilogues and they last like 2-3 pages, but we decided to do a whole book on an epilogue, and I felt that they could have combined the 2 issues together last time with the big battle and then the happy ending at the end. I would have loved to see that. But nevertheless, this was a much better issue. You finally get the closure that you were looking for all this time when it came to the Spider characters here. In the issue, you wind up seeing all the characters wind up saying their goodbyes and kumbayas and, hey, we did battle, it's good to see you. And then you get to see, in the issue, you wind up seeing Spider-Man here, or Spider-Girl, Mayday Parker, winds up going back to her time. Her father, unfortunately, is still dead, but Mary Jane was alive. Her brother's still alive, and she kind of Mary Jane passes the the actual suit, the original suit to the daughter, to Mayday Parker, and it makes you feel like there's going to be a new chapter in Mayday's life, which I thought was really just that standalone moment that Mayday really needed in the issue. And then we find out that Superior just is having a shit fit about knowing his fate, that he's actually going to die in the future, and he isn't willing to accept it. So he's like destroying the entire Great Web. And Madam Web winds up coming out of her coma once again, going, "Oh my God, all the strands are fucked up." She's like, "I can't deal with this, you know." And so we wind up seeing that the book really did a good job when it eliminated all the surrounding Spider-Man and focused on characters in the actual book. I thought it did a phenomenal job there at that. And they were doing battle against Superior, and this was the fight that I think a lot of people were waiting to see when it came with Superior and Peter. And this time it wasn't the mental battle, it was the physical battle. And we get to see that, yes, Superior gets knocked the hell out, and Peter is the one that's in charge. And we find out seeing what Karn's purpose really is in this issue. He winds up becoming the new Master Weaver, because after reading some of the encryptions in the weapons, we wind up finding out that there always is a person in the center of the web. And Karn takes that responsibility and winds up now having to slowly repair all the web strands of what Superior did. So we get to see that some of Miguel winds up going back to his time, and we wind up seeing that Spider-Man UK and Anya are the ones that got to stay back and help repair and do the things to fix the strands. So by the time we wind up getting back to this issue, we see that, yes, folks, Kane is not dead. He will be alive and kicking in the future. And we wind up seeing Spider-Man going back to the great old Manhattan and just doing the things that he loves best, and that's just fighting the common petty burglar. So really great stuff. I really liked it. The characters shined at certain times. Mayday shined, Superior shined, Peter shined, Anya was in here, Spider-Man UK, they all had their good moments, and that's what Spider-Verse really, really needed the whole time to make it a top-notch event. But this had a great epilogue. It was a great conclusion to the series, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. However, I didn't give it my #1 pick of the week because Superior Iron Man continues to impress me once again, fans. That's right, issue #5. I did not think I was going to fall in love with the Teen Abomination. I thought the guy was a joke at first, and that Tom Taylor has this thing of making you love characters. And in this issue, it is the origin of the Teen Abomination. Gotta love the character here. Says Tales of Superiority, featuring Superior Spider-Man, just playing tribute to Tales of Suspense series. In this issue, and that's what you get. You wind up getting the origin of Teen Abomination here. And, you know, you get to see that Tony is just running his blood tests on trying to find out what's going on with Teen Abomination. I think his name was Jamie. And we wind up finding out that his mom winds up working for Stark Industries. And we wind up finding that out here. And of course, Tony was all in problems back in that time, in that particular timeline, and they were doing experiments on gamma radiation. And the person that wound up foreseeing the whole experiment that was going on was Happy. That's right, guys, Happy. And we wound up finding out that, yes, you mess with gamma rays, shit's going to happen. Bad stuff is going to happen. And what happens is the experiment winds up going wrong, and we find out that the doctor dies, and we find out that Jamie and his mom still are living. And what's it called? And Iron Man at the time, why he wasn't there is he was doing battle against Whiplash and Llama. And there were some real comical moments there because, you know, Teen Abomination is a child, he's a teenager, and he pictured Iron Man doing this battle against a physical llama, and I thought it was hysterical. But by the time we find out the whole thing here, by the end of this issue, we wind up finding out that the gamma radiation didn't change Jamie. Nothing happened to the mom, and mom was okay. And we wind up seeing that You know, he was getting beat up in school and he wasn't fitting into the crowd. They broke his skateboard. He was all angry. Mom is just out of a job and they're falling behind in their bills. And, you know, his mom just sits there and says, well, why don't you just try to fit in with these people? And he gets really mad at his mom. And he's like, leave me alone. And he starts getting so angry with her. And you wind up seeing the transformation happen. He starts changing and starts breaking up the house and winds up blowing up everything. And the whole house explodes. And when the house explodes, his mom dies. And he blames his mom for his death. And you can see the agony and the pain that he's in. And the reason why he doesn't change back is because he's so angry at what he's done that he can't change back. And that's really the whole story of the teen abomination. I'm like, man, that really hit home. You know, he's single mom. You know, he killed his mom on accident, and he couldn't control his anger. And then we wind up finding out that once the DNA confirmation comes from, we find out who his father is. And we wind up finding out that his father was Happy. And that's who it was. His mom had a relationship with Happy, and he never knew that. And it was the only person that Iron Man really cared about, and he died that day in that experiment. And it was kind of a sad situation there. And Iron Man continues to drink and whatnot, and he kind of has to do more studying, so he sends Teen Abomination away, and we wind up seeing that Iron Man here is just, you know, looking over the computers and trying to find out what happened that particular day. And all his records and everything that he has been erased, and Iron Man can't figure it out. And he's going to have to try to figure out what happened that day. Someone took a day of his life away because it's not on recorded history, and he can't remember what happened that particular day. I thought this was a very well done issue. It hits home, really does, with the whole bullying situation. He wound up killing his mom out of frustration and anger. Tom Taylor does a really good job of getting you to like a character that you thought you would never like. You know, and even Tom Taylor in the back of the issue talks about Teen Abomination, on how it started off to be a joke and how he was going to be called like the Man-Thing or something like that. You know, he was supposed to be the joke of the Marvel Universe, and it wound up becoming much more than that. So this was a really well done issue, and I have to give it again. Every week, every month that it's come out, I had to give it 5 stars. #1 on my list. This was a great book and a wonderful series, and just a different take on Iron Man. But even in this one, it kind of broke down Iron Man a little bit, really brought him to, you know, his normal self there for a second. So highly suggest you guys read Superior Iron Man. Fun read. So guys, there you have it. A little lengthy of a countdown this week, but I'm kind of making up for last week since I didn't do one. So hopefully you enjoyed it. So guys, you've seen the worst, you've seen the best, and guys, and all the other shit in between. So fans, tell me your worst pick of the week. Tell me your favorite pick of the week. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. And thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.